Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and today we have some huge breaking news that has just released. Trevor Lawrence is signing a 5-year extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars worth $275 million, $55 million a year, seemingly matching Joe Burrow's contract. Highest paid contract in the history of the NFL. Now, we are still waiting for official salary cap numbers each year. And it's possible that some of this money is what we call funny money. We saw it with Josh Allen's contract, for example, earlier this offseason. So it is possible that this is worth a little bit less. We'll probably come back and we'll revisit this as far as salary cap implications. Maybe we'll just do a bigger video about that. But this is a lot of money, right? And so we're going to talk about that. And I want to give my thoughts on this extension and just whether I agree with it or not, and kind of what this does for Jacksonville. So jumping into that first, looking at the different salaries for the quarterback position. You can see here, this will be tied for the largest contract in the NFL. It is possible, like I said, that it's worth a little bit less than that $55 million. What I mean by that is if we take a look at the edge position instead and where Josh Allen lands, this was reported originally as a $150 million contract over 5 years, $30 million a year. It ends up being $141 million a year roughly. It ends up being almost $2 million a year cheaper. I think that's probably something that we see with the Trevor Lawrence contract, where this lands a little bit closer to maybe that $53 million a year mark. But like I said, we'll go back and we'll revisit this. So just talking about this extension for a minute for Jacksonville, what I will say in agreement with it, and what I will say that I like about this move is that when you're looking at all the different outcomes for when you extend him, how well he plays in the future, this allows you to have the best case scenario. Because if Trevor Lawrence starts playing at a higher level, he starts really taking that next step, because we've seen a lot of inconsistency to this point, which, hey, to be clear, there are plenty of good excuses for that. And those good excuses have been made for quite a while. And I don't really disagree with them. But at the same time, it is a large portion of Trevor Lawrence's career that has kind of been written off. There's been reasons given for why it really doesn't count. You look at the first year and a half of his career, right? Urban Meyer. And then the last, half year of that period was really wiping off the stench before they went on that run in 2022. This last year, you had the big injuries at the end of the season. And so there's a lot of excuses there, but valid excuses for why maybe the stats don't really come that close to what you'd expect from a player earning this contract. And so it's a really, I think, intricate conversation to discuss whether Trevor Lawrence is worth this amount. But for Jacksonville, I think that this move makes a lot of sense for Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, because if they're going to be here, Trevor Lawrence is going to be here too, right? I don't see a world where those guys are going to be on this team and Trevor isn't, because if they don't work it out with Trevor Lawrence, they're going to get fired. It's pretty simple, right? Trent Baalke ain't keeping his GM job if Trevor Lawrence was a bust. So this is kind of a move where, to me, it feels like there was one option for them this whole time. And that was to extend him now, because this will be the cheapest price that you're going to get Trevor Lawrence at. Now, with that said, it's a big freaking price. Like, we're paying him $55 million a year, seemingly, and that's going to be tying for the biggest contract in the NFL. But I think that's the reason why this has been done, and I think it's fair reason, because if you really believe in him, if they have 100% confidence, you make the deal now. Now, for me, I kind of alluded to this earlier in the offseason when we talked about, we had a video recorded where we discussed, what's their urgency to extend Trevor Lawrence? And I said that I did not think there would be. And I'm saying that in the sense that not me saying the Jaguars wouldn't have urgency, but that they should not. Because looking at the numbers here, I don't think there was a quarterback coming up that was going to earn more than Joe Burrow. I just didn't think that was going to happen. Maybe it's possible now that, Tua would have got $55 million a year, and that drives up the price for Trevor. But we're talking about very minimal amounts because we have so many quarterbacks in the NFL that are earning somewhere between 50 to 55 million right now. And I think there's large disparities in how those guys are playing too. As long as you haven't busted somewhere, like a Baker Mayfield who's playing better now, but obviously Cleveland didn't want to keep him, and he went to a few teams, you're getting that number. Seems like there's very little disparity at the top because everyone's saying, well, I could be the best, pay me the best. And so this is kind of what that deal is, but it's the best deal they were going to get right now. And so for me, I don't completely agree with it for the sense that I think what you could have saved doing it now compared to maybe the end of this season is that much. I think that if, say, Trevor Lawrence had a great year, right, and he goes and balls out, and I hope he does, and I think that's very much on the table this season. It is, I think, still a very good situation for him, and they've had generally a good offseason, better than I expected. I think that Trevor Lawrence could go ball out, and if he does, that price goes up a little bit. But I think we're at a point where how much the price goes up is very minimal, right? It's not going to be something that is a huge deal because you're not going to earn more than what? Probably $57.5 million if you ball out at the end of this year. I mean, I think that's probably the max you're getting to. I think maybe if you wait a few off seasons, it could go up a bunch if you see like a CJ Stroud deal, but you had some time before the market was really going to get reset again. So to me, I was very much in the camp of how about we wait, right? How about we put on a little bit of pressure? If you're going to sign your franchise quarterback or the guy you think he is, after year 3, when you have a 5th-year option, when you have franchise tags at your disposal, and you don't want to get into that territory ideally, right? You have to be 100% confident. And for me, while I think Trevor Lawrence will be the franchise quarterback, I never reached the 100% confidence level this season. Maybe at the end of 2022, but there were big questions. I mean, I know that Trevor Lawrence is better than his stats look, right? But when you've thrown for 9 touchdowns through 9 games, that is an issue. At some point, I think in Trevor Lawrence's career, we have to see the volume take a step forward because we don't have the sheer volume necessarily in a run game that would implicate this offense is one of the very best in the NFL. It's not like Travis Etienne is out here at 2K yards total going through the air and going on the ground because, hey, well, he's a great player. It's not a great offensive line for run blocking. It's actually ranked 31st last year. So I really wanted to see Trevor Lawrence take a step forward before we did this deal. And because they've done it early, I think it does open this very small possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but that you jump the gun too early and you could possibly make the wrong decision. I don't expect that. And I apologize for my voice. I literally just woke up before this. But while I don't think that's possible, I think the risk is perhaps a little too much for where I would have done it. And that's fine, right? I'm just a fan, and I'm not going to make the decisions. I'm going to support them in what they do. And I think this will probably end up being the best thing they could have done because most likely he's going to be the guy. And I think it's very, very likely. I don't think this is a 50-50 thing. So we're going to see what happens, but the risk is there, right? Because you're looking at the guarantees here. You see 142 million fully guaranteed, which I think is a little confusing. I'm assuming at some point in the deal, perhaps I would guess after year 2 of this contract, maybe at that point is when the rest of that becomes guaranteed. So that if things go south, yeah, you take a huge cap hit, right? You're paying him like 71 million a year, but you can get out of the contract. So if that's the case, that's better for that very bad worst case scenario. That's probably not going to happen. But, there is some risk involved there, right? Because you've got the 2 years left on the rookie deal. Now you've got probably 3 years, somewhere around that you're guaranteeing. You're going to be riding with Trevor Lawrence for a while. And so this decision has to be right. You can say that with anyone, right? You say that with Joe Burrow when he was extended. You can say that with Patrick Mahomes when he was extended. I was a little more confident, though, in those players. But at the end of the day, this will probably end up being the best move. We'll see what the specific cap numbers are for Trevor Lawrence. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the future. You have to also understand that the NFL is going up in cap space every year. We are projected right now, I believe, to go from 255 up to 273 up to like 293 over these next 3 years. So right now we're at that 255 mark. It's a lot of money opening up, and by the time that Trevor Lawrence's contract is going to go into effect, you're already going to have nearly that amount extra in cap space. So I like that side of it, but obviously, like I said, have some disagreements. That's okay. This is the move they made. So it's going to be fun. See what happens. I want to see Trevor take another step, and I hope that still happens. I expect it to still happen, but we'll see during that 2024 NFL season. But what's for sure is that he is the franchise quarterback for quite a while for your Jacksonville Jaguars. So give me your thoughts. I know a lot of fans are going to be 100% on board with this. Let me know your logic on this extension. I think, like I said, a little bit more than I expected. I think guarantees are a little bit better, though, than I thought. And Trevor Lawrence, it should end up being the guy. This should end up being the best deal they could have had. So thanks for watching. Guys, I appreciate it. We'll have some more videos out here soon. I've got them planned right now. Just got to record. So that's it. Have a great rest of your day. And finally, go Jags.